as a lot of the major tech companies start to invest in these brain sensors, it's a huge, I think, untapped market in many ways of integrating them into everyday devices. These are earbuds or watches or headphones and the soft cups around the ears. Many of those products are hitting the market this year, and others are hitting them within the next 2 years, such that people can listen to music, a phone call, etc., while having those devices in ears. Initially, what they will be capable of doing is very high-level brain state reading. Things like, are you tired? Are you paying attention?
Now, why would they want that? Here's Dr. Farahany from the World Economic Forum at this year's meeting and talking about brain sensor technology, and especially in this clip specifically about the market opportunities for tech companies to create interfaces that deal with brain waves. This technology has advanced considerably in the last few years, but remember that everyone has their own motives for science and exploration. And what is the motive primarily of big business? Well, it's to make a profit. So these tech companies would not invest in brainwave sensing unless there was a reason to do so. What would that reason be? Well, that's what this episode is about here today. We're going to take a look now not only at this person who probably to me represents more of the governmental aspect, and we're going to take a look now at Jensen Huang, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, and what he has to say about brainwave sensors.
As you know, we now have the ability to create large language models and pre-trained models of all kinds. And we have all of these various versions, whether it's language-based or vision-based or imaging-based, or we have versions that are available for healthcare, digital biology. We have versions that are digital humans that I'll talk to you about. And the way you use this, just come to ai.nvidia.com. And today we just posted up in Hugging Face the Llama 3 NIM, fully optimized. It's available there for you to try, and you can even take it with you.
You can even take it with you, like your headphones, like your everyday devices, like your smartphone. Interesting. Okay, so now we see not only just what I felt like was pretty speculative from the WEF. I shared that video a couple weeks ago, but now more concrete. We have AI-based language models that can interface with brainwaves. Pretty interesting to see that. I mean, what would be, again, the motives behind wanting to have brainwave interfaces? Now, Neuralink is not a new concept. That's been around for a couple years. Elon Musk implanted successfully within the last year the first human trial of Neuralink. That's a brain sensor that goes inside the brain. But remember that Dr. Farahany was talking more about wearables, that these sensors are not just inside your brain, but in close proximity to your brain, and close enough where they can pick up on the brainwave patterns that exist. What's unique about this specifically is the targeted use cases. Now, when it comes to wanting to know if you're paying attention or not, who needs that information more than advertisers? They want to hit you with their ads at the optimal time of day. And there's certain times of day where your brain state is ready to receive an advertisement, and other times of day where you're probably less likely to click on an advertisement, right? And so they're really, at least theoretically, wanting to dial in on your most optimal state to engage with X, Y, and Z. That's very, very financially advantageous to any advertiser who would be able to get you at your best moments, okay? But more than just the read of your brain data, what about the writing of your brain data? That's the thing about this that is maybe one of those other use cases that feels to me to be more than these guys are bargaining for. Okay, so let's say that you have the ability to put on some headphones. This is a pair of headphones probably similar to what the person was describing. Got some discount Bose headphones. Now, with these headphones, there's these soft cups, right? Theoretically, Dr. Farahany was right. Within the next 2 years, there will be sensors embedded into the soft cups that will be able to read your brain data. They'll be able to make inferences about you based on your smartwatch, based on devices close enough to you, on what you're thinking. Now, in the full video, this was a little short clip, but in the full video, she talks about kind of the move from low resolution to high resolution, so that we can already gain things like what's your approximate mental state, what's your approximate mood. These types of low resolution things are already available. That's why you can wear a smartwatch and it can approximate your sleep quality. That's why. It's because these things have low resolution reading ability about your brainwave data. But as that moves to higher resolution, it's going to be able to know kind of what parts of the brain are activated. What are the again, approximate, but brain waves coming from those parts of the brain. And if they're able to do that, really what they're going to know is, to what extent is this person a threat? The AI analysis of the brainwave is going to be able to know a lot about what this person is thinking. This might come as a surprise, but with very high resolution, with our current highest resolution brain scanners, not the ones that are inside the cups of your earphones, but the ones that you put on at like the hospital. Those ones have extremely high fidelity scan ability. We're going to take a break and I'm going to pull it up. Here we go. And we're back. Here it is. Big Think article from April 1st, 2023. Brain scans can reveal what song you're listening to. So this is a look at breaking news / cutting edge neuroscience and like what these things tell us as we plug them into AIs. Okay, so it says the ability to decode acoustic information from brain activity aids the development of brain-computer interfaces that restore communication in patients who suffer paralysis. But what they found in their studies is that even non-invasively, you could decode the auditory information that the brain is picking up. So in this specific study, as I remember, they were using their highest, grade medical scanners, and they were being able to decode to some extent a song. So they used these high fidelity machines to get people identifying things they're thinking of, a piece of music in their mind, and they were able to decipher which piece of music with 72% accuracy. Isn't that interesting? So this is the highest grade of current technology in terms of brain scans. Okay, they can know based on the brain waves inside your mind what music you're thinking about. Okay, so at least hypothetically then, these same technologies could be applied to the other sections of the brain, not just the auditory sections, but the other sections. What are you thinking about emotionally? What are you thinking about in other sections of your brain that deal with, areas that deal with pleasure, areas that deal with function and like, muscular use. All of these areas potentially open now for interpretation. That's the read side. Again, what about the write side? When it comes to an interface, we're dealing with not just the detection of brainwaves, but at least potentially the, how do I say this? The introduction of brainwaves, the broadcast of brainwaves. What we know about electrical systems in the brain, being one, is that they operate via resonance and magnetism and electricity. And when these magnetic fields are close enough to each other, it's at least possible to conceive of the idea that you could introduce brain waves remotely into the brain. Would that be something that you wanted to do? No. Our brain is not to be a hackable device that we can read everything that comes out of our mind. It's not to be a hackable device that we can introduce brain waves of a certain type to create a response in certain areas of the brain. That's manipulation, and it gets pretty sinister from there. Why do people want that level of manipulation? Why do people want that level of knowledge? Well, I can tell you, again, back to the original statements, motivations really come into play here now in a major way. So the motive for a government to have this technology and the motive for a business are different. The motive for medicine is different. I can tell you that the government isn't probably thinking so much about the therapeutic use case. They're probably thinking more about, how can I know who is dangerous in and among my people? It's mass control. It's trying to be able to supervise and manage the huge number of citizens under their care, right? And now with some of these more advanced forms of the technology, they could sit somebody down and somewhat have an idea of what they're thinking. Okay. So would that be problematic? If you sit in a chair and the government scans your brain and now they know kind of what you're thinking. I could see some problems with that, especially depending on how nice that government is to your ideologies. So if you're thinking something, potentially they know. The business motivation, obviously, I think, the immediate sale value of your brainwaves data probably could be sold to the highest bidder, i.e. advertisers. But I think even more just this, some of the business use is probably things like understanding your mindfulness, your restfulness, and that's how they're going to sell it to consumers. They're going to say, well, these devices are going to help you be your best you. They're going to give you signals on when you might need to calm down, when you might need to spend some time in meditation, right? That's how they're going to kind of make it sound like they're on your team. And then just like with everything, once they have the data, it's for sale. And that's kind of, I guess, maybe part of the issue, I guess, that I see here is like, well, it's never really just for us when it comes to the business use. It's almost always for money somehow. I think the therapeutic uses are pretty legitimate. You can probably understand to some extent what areas of the brain are firing, maybe when they shouldn't be. I think about certain trauma patients who have certain parts of the brain that are firing at times and in places that are not good. I mean, like if somebody's having a consistent traumatic response in their brain, that's something that they need to work through with a psychiatrist potentially to understand, why is the brain going back to this specific area? Why is this area firing at a time when it maybe shouldn't? And kind of digging deeper there. Some of those therapeutic use cases are maybe exciting, but I would prefer that those stay in the realm of self-care. When somebody goes to the hospital or they're engaging in self-care, they're at least consenting to it and knowing that they're doing it. And in these other cases, like, secret brain sensors being embedded into wearable technologies, I mean, are they even telling you at this point that this is what they're doing? And if they're not, to me, that feels like a no-no. It feels like a red flag that I wouldn't have the ability to consent to the analysis of my brainwave data, or potentially even the addition of new brainwaves that influence then thought. Okay, I know that feels like a weird thing to say, but when I first heard Dr. Farahany at the World Economic Forum, I thought, there's no way that this is like actually coming in a year or two. And here it is. I mean, we have it on first level authority, first level sources from people developing the technology that, yes, in fact, they do plan to use AI to analyze and develop models based on brainwave data. So hopefully those models will always be used for good. But I think that in this time and in this day and age, that's not necessarily a given. I've unfortunately seen too much from these technology leaders to know that they don't always use the technology for the best use cases. In fact, oftentimes sinister people gain these technologies and then apply them in poor ways for less than favorable outcomes for most people. So I guess I'll be looking to see how this unfolds. I think, what's the application for us? I think deciding what is sacred is very important, especially right now. What are the boundaries and what is sacred? So is privacy sacred? Is even the thoughts of your brain a sacred space? The Bible says that no one knows the thoughts of a man except the spirit of the man. So, I mean, even if they've got these low resolution scans or they have an approximate idea of what is in your mind, they can't really know, honestly. They can have an idea of what your brain waves are, but can they know for certain what your thoughts are? That's where I feel like we're getting into this very familiar, but all too familiar place where it's like we know enough about it to make some inference, and make some decisions, but we don't know exactly what's going on inside the brain. And I feel like that's where the applications for this kind of get a little bit unsettling. Like if they can hook up a brain sensor to somebody who's on trial for a crime, for example, they could know a lot about that person's mental state when they say certain words. They could probably know something about whether or not those words cause them to feel alarm or other things inside their brain. Would those bits of data then be actionable somehow in court? You know, some of those types of questions, I feel like it starts to get a little bit nuts, really. Or if there was a certain segment of the population that the supervising government decided was problematic or prone to extremism, you know, forcing that population to wear a device that would keep track of their brainwave data and transmit it back to the authorities seems like a likelihood more than a possibility. So the future applications of brainwave sensing technology, I think, are something that we should be paying attention to. But the question I guess I come to this with is, are there any sacred spaces? Are there any things that maybe we hold in such a place that it's not meant to be accessed by sensors? I think that medical science and technology has done a lot of good for very many people, but at the same time, it seems like they're trying to get to this place where the computer knows what we think. And I don't know that that's a place that I'm going to be wanting to go alongside them. My immediate thought when I saw that video for the first time was, be careful what you wish for because you might get it. If you get a computer that knows what you think, just realize it's going to know what you think. If you want a computer that's able to make decisions based on what you think, just realize that that computer is going to make decisions based on what you think. So, sus. That's my assessment. A little sus. I think it's interesting that, I mean, they just say it so matter-of-factly, like, yes, we want your brainwave data, basically. Yes, we're ready to analyze your brainwave data. Yes, we're making products like that will actually interface with your brainwave data. It's like, okay, I mean, I say that type of thing, and people like are thinking probably, what kind of Kool-Aid's Andrew been drinking lately? But this is their own word. This is their own public declaration. And that's where I feel like we at least need to be interacting with it together and understanding what is our plan for what to do about people holding these technologies. So I'm not too worried. I guess I'm just probably not going to be one to embrace those forms of technology. I think that we probably will see people who do leverage that technology, maybe for financial advantage, maybe for other types of competitive advantage, but I won't be among them. Take care, friends.